Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bunch of Nuts podcast. This is Dan here, Cass. We're gonna do as much show as we can. Might get hit with a tornado. I don't know. I got my rain hat on. Got my Ohio versus the world T-shirt on. And let's just have a great show, Cass. But a lot of stuff going on. Overall this week in Ohio State, just Michi Johnson back to South Carolina.
You
We
ever watch The Office?
yes.
Snip, snap, snip, snap.
Literally. Um, which I mean, me, I'll tell you what. There's two people in the world that know the drive from Columbus to Columbia, South Carolina, and it's one is me when I go down to Hilton Head each year, and number two is Michi Johnson because like he definitely um, he knows the good rest stops on that trip by now if he's
Yeah.
going to South Carolina. So, but best of luck. I mean, I it makes sense. It
A
makes
lot of
the
people calling him a con artist. I kind of tend to agree a little bit, but
I,
we'll see.
I'm not calling him a con. I don't think he's a con artist. I think he had good intentions. I think he wanted this to work out with Ohio State. Unfortunately, he just didn't a second time, which it failed the first time. So why like fool me once, shame on me. And he's going back to the place he was from. I think it makes the most sense.
Yeah,
Um,
Diebler is not having a good week, by the way.
he is not. It's well, some
Aaron Bradshaw hit the portal, which we all knew that was coming, but
feel like that's a good. I feel like that's good though.
yeah. And then the Swain kid follows his coach Archie Miller to Texas. I might have been one of the few people that had thought the Buckeyes would had no shot at him, anyways.
I saw people on Twitter say that they want Felix Akpara to hit the portal, which is which is hilarious. Like,
He's not hitting the portal.
and if he does, Ohio State should get him. Oh no, it was a rumor.
He's not hitting the portal.
I don't think he is, but that was a rumor. Um,
Hey, shout out to Tennessee. Still no Final Four appearances in the history of their
so
school.
that one guy who was chirping at us, and I told him Ohio, like Tennessee could go to like four straight Final Fours, and they still won't have more than Ohio State.
Yeah.
Um, and no, it's so funny, dude. I lost my train of thought, but I like we'll see what happens with the roster. That was it. Michigan's point guard. He is in the portal too, and he was a big part of their team.
Was
Trey,
that April Fool's?
no, it was what Donaldson, and then Holloman from Michigan State too. Like insane, like very good players who are coming off of good seasons. So the portal right now in basketball is Wild Wild West. I'm surprised Ohio State is keeping Mobley and Thornton. Yeah,
Oh, I
if they
mean,
keep
it's
Mo-
on three.
if they keep Mobley, Thornton, and Royal, I do think this team's going to be very good still because they're all three of them are going to get better, and then they just literally need to put semi-competent pieces around them, and they'll be good.
I think we make the tournament with Zed Key, to be honest with you.
I agree, man.
But that's hearsay. People are talking about this Final Four being really bad because the only second time in history where all the number one seeds make the tournament. Let's be real. College basketball was not very strong this year, especially with mid majors. These are the four best teams in the country, hands down. The four
I
best.
I have a hot take. I gotta say, the college football playoff was more electric this year than March Madness has been at
Hands down.
hands that correct? Like
Hands down.
has the college football is it now instead of March Madness, is it now December Madness? Like we didn't get the big upset.
January madness. There's more games in January.
We didn't get the big upset, but we got some crazy games. And like the Arizona State Texas game was iconic.
The
Um,
Texas Ohio State game was good.
that was great.
Heck, even the Texas Clemson game was pretty solid there for a while.
Penn State versus Notre Dame.
We were at Roosters for that one.
That was arguably the best game of the playoff.
I I tell you what though, remember because we just lost to Oregon. You and I walk into Roosters. Half the Roosters on Sawmill Road was Penn State fans. Half the Roosters on the other side were Notre Dame fans. And then there's these two jackasses in the middle wearing Ohio State, and we're cheering for both teams. Like we're literally cheering for both teams.
Because I didn't know who to cheer for. I'm like, uh, I like Penn State would be down. I was like, oh no, I kind of want to play Penn State. Notre Dame be up. I'd be like, or no, Penn State would be up, and I'd be like, oh, I kind of want to play
We
Notre
we
Dame.
we definitely got some strange looks.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you how many times I've been to that Roosters. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens with basketball.
Yeah.
Panic alarm at this point. Did the Holtman
So
win yesterday? By the way,
mm,
pretty sure they did. They lost 61-83 in the Crown. This, the
they didn't
six.
even deserve to be in the crown.
Well, they got Ohio State spot. That was part of Holtman's buyout.
Well, Diebler's going to be on 97.1 in the morning,
7
on
a.m.
the morning at 7 a.m. on the morning juice. So it's going to be interesting to see how what, because I'm sure Bobby and Beamer are going to drill him with questions. So um, hopefully we get to hear some. But speaking of football,
Football.
Caleb Williams spoke with, and I just sent this to you right
Caleb
before we got
Down.
on air. Caleb Downs spoke to the media. I love what he said. Um, Talking about they're looking around in the weight room and seeing the national championship stuff and saying, well, the new guys haven't earned this, and the 2025 Buckeyes haven't earned this. And we touched base on this about a couple weeks ago when Caden Curry was kind of talking about it too. But I love the mantra of this football team this year so far in the spring. I know there's a lot of talk about how the quarterbacks did not look good in the first scrimmage, hence the first scrimmage. But I guess, and then Lorenzo Styles coming out and speaking how much he loves being around Coach Patricia and saying it's kind of nice to have a coach that loves his players. Is that a shade at Jim Knowles? Like,
I don't know if it's that. I just you can see Matt Patricia. He's really good at fostering relationships with the players. Even the pictures with CJ Hicks. CJ Hicks loves him as a coach. You're hearing nothing but good things. Um, which is
if Patricia turns CJ Hicks into an All American, then Jim Knowles was the problem the whole time.
possibly. Um, but back to Caleb, what Caleb Downs said. I really love this. And I wasn't even thinking about this, but now, after hearing that, we had tear down the national championship
This is
posters.
the second time we've heard it in what 3 weeks.
Like, I don't want to wear any national championship gear for this month. Like, I think I might be following Caleb down. Like, I'm locking in for April, maybe no national championship gear, and we're just gonna
Just
wear because we
just
got
wear it May, June, and once summer conditioning starts in July, we pack up the 2024 national championship stuff.
I agree. Yeah, it's a great mindset.
See, I'm going to Tennessee at the end of May.
You can wear
I am
that.
wearing it
that
proudly.
that's different.
Yeah, proudly. But speaking of football, uh, continue with football. I'm not really worried about the quarterbacks. I think they're going to just fine. Actually, that clip that we posted on Twitter and some of the clips, Julian Sayin is just ripping it. And I think a lot of this has to do with I think there's a lot of this negativity talk that's being around about the quarterbacks is I think it's keeping Lincoln Keenholz here. Because we were talking about in Slack with the Silver Bulletin guys, there really isn't no depth at quarterback.
I mean, I think there's depth. I think there's actually a ton of depth because the
But
third option is Tavion. He might not be ready. It might not be
or
experienced, but I love the talent.
or we just got accustomed to last year's depth and how deep it was.
Yeah, but I think the talent is better because
Yeah.
like I like the trio of them. Will Howard was amazing, obviously, but like Devin Brown, I think
Savion's not ready yet.
Tavion will be better than Devin Brown and a lot of these guys, I think. So I think that room is really good, actually. I know it was Troy obviously turned one over the weekend, so we had the birthday party. You came by, and we were talking to Mark. I remember when I was like, I'm a Lincoln guy, and I've said this in Slack. I've said this like I just
I
think
like Lincoln.
it's going to be it would be so much fun with Lincoln. He like Jeremiah wouldn't win the Heisman, but like Lincoln Keenholz might win the Heisman if like he was the quarterback. Um, but then you watch what Sayin has done.
He's zipping it, man.
Every ball, every time I watch him throw it, it's accurate, it's on target, it's good zip.
I
No,
tell you what, I wish to be honest, if you look at all three quarterbacks, the best looking body is Tavion St. Clair.
Yeah. Well, the best looking body's Aaron Noland. If you actually, he's no. To be fair though, he has the body of an elite quarterback. If
I honestly thought that if you looked at that picture, I thought somebody photoshopped CJ Stroud in that picture with Julian Sayin, Tavion St. Clair, and Lincoln Keenholz because Tavion is built like CJ Stroud already.
he's a lot slimmer than I remember. I feel like he lost weight.
Oh, he had to have. He was a little bit thick last year, but I'm with you, man. I, I think Julian. At the end of the day, I think Julian Sayin's going to start, but I think Lincoln Keenholz is going to battle, man. He's it's just the type of athlete he is.
Like if Sayin went down like early on in the season, I
I
wouldn't be,
think
I
that's
wouldn't be,
why
I wouldn't,
Ryan.
I wouldn't be devastated because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we'll be fine with Lincoln. Like I don't think Sayin is would marginally run the offense that much more than Lincoln, but like Sayin gives us a higher ceiling. But I think Lincoln would do exceptional.
What helps is you got great running backs and you have great wide receivers and you have great tight ends.
Well,
This
and he,
would be the first year. This would be the first year since 2019. Oh no, this might be the first year in a long time where we had a really good tight end group, great wide receivers, good running backs. Because think about it, in 2019, we had Luke Farrell and Jeremy Rucker was just getting going, but obviously elite wide receivers and elite running back. But like in 2022, we had great wide receivers. We had Cade Stover, and Travion wasn't there yet. We had Chip train him, so this this is going to be really great for a young quarterback, whoever it is, to have all three of his weapon groups to be elite.
and experience, very experienced. You're absolutely right. Like when you look at it, all facets are truly experienced. Maybe the least experience is running back, compared to other years. I feel like Donaldson though is going to come and be a beast. People
Peoples,
up where Trey and Judkins left off.
Bo
Um,
Jackson.
I just with Lincoln though at quarterback. Like everything that guy does athletically, he's great at. It's baseball, basketball.
Yep.
He's so why wouldn't it be the same at quarterback? And
But
whoever be,
what offense is this going to be? Is it Ryan Day's or Chip Kelly's? If it's Chip Kelly, I want Lincoln Keenholz all day.
yes, yes. Yeah, that's actually phenomenal. If it's a Ryan Day offense, then
Give
say
me, give me saying
if it's the offense we saw last year, I need a guy who's going to be a distributor, like and not
like
and
Will Howard was.
that's Lincoln Keenholz. Like, but we'll put it best. Like, you just need to get them the ball. You just gotta distribute. You don't have to do anything crazy. I trust Lincoln for some reason to be effective there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's going to be. We've got. I know we got the spring game, but you're not going to
He's saying he's
see.
gonna start. I know he's gonna start.
Yeah, but we're not going to see. We're going to see the quarterbacks, but we're not going to see the wide receivers. You're not going to see Max
See
Clare,
Milan Graham.
huh?
See Milan Graham.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see, especially they still got summer camp. So people tone down the quarterbacks haven't looked good at camp quite yet.
Yeah, like Caleb Downs is doing this. He's also been nicked up, but I think they're just really reserving him because look, it's his third year. He just won a natty.
Well,
He played so much too.
Cornell Tate's on a pitch count. Jeremiah Smith's on a pitch count.
Yeah.
Sonny Styles pitch count. Caleb Downs pitch count. Jermaine Matthews pitch count. Davis Enigmenosin pitch count.
Oh, they have to do that.
Yeah, we don't we don't need to see these. We just need to see the young guys. If Mason Maggs wasn't hurt, you could literally do an honest Caleb and Sonny, Caleb, Sonny, and Carson Hensman and Jeremiah Smith, who I think will be the four captains next year. I'm saying that about Jeremiah Smith. You put Caleb and Carson on the Scarlet team, and you take Sonny and Jeremiah, and they draft the team, and they don't get those four. Don't play. Those four don't play. You
Oh,
make the draft, and you do a true Scarlet and Gray team like they did in the early 2000s.
no, I think that's how you make the spring game fun again. Like you have them pick, and then they can coach and stuff, and they're teaching their position group, and I agree.
Yeah.
That's how I would
You
do
can
it.
even throw. Actually, I don't think Jeremiah Smith will be captain. I think Carnell Tate will.
Mm.
Well, that's another episode. We're going to once spring ball
That's
ends,
what
we got
episode.
so.
Yeah, well, I mean, back to football. And speaking of safeties too, Malik Hartford um is looking really good. Like the Jalen, like our safety room next year, Jalen McClain, Malik Hartford, Caleb Downs gonna be phenomenal. Malik Hartford looks amazing. Lorenzo Styles was praising him in an article today. So really excited there. And then speaking of my
And this is why, with them being so elite, this is why this kid, what Dan's about to say.
my favorite position group, five-star safety Blaine Bradford becomes a Buckeye. He commits to Ohio State. Matt Guerrieri is on an absolute heater. Yeah, he's the shadow DC. I feel like at this point for Ohio State, it's going to be Ohio State's second five-star recruit class of 2026. So it's Chris Henry Jr., wide receiver number one, safety Blaine Bradford number two, both five stars. What's huge about this is one, he's obviously like, people are saying, oh, he's like the next Caleb Downs, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't say he's the next Caleb Downs, but like he is 6'1, 207 pounds. The kid is out of Louisiana. He's the number one safety in the country. And it's big because Ohio State basically went down south. They took a kid from, LSU's backyard and Texas was competing too. And Texas, it's tough to beat Texas in an area so close to Texas. That's SEC country, and Ohio State, convinced this kid. And then his dad was on Twitter actually, and his dad just said like, yeah, like someone asked him, "Are you going to change your commit recruitment?" And his dad was just like, well, no, I don't think he is because Ohio State just flat out recruited him. Like all these like Texas, LSU didn't do a good job recruiting him, and like Ohio State just did it much better, which is an awesome sign.
Anywhere's number 23, and I sent you a list of the greatest players to wear these type of jersey numbers, whatever. And Arnie Choco is the greatest Ohio State player to wear number 23. If he stays at number 23, wearing number 23 at Ohio State, we could put Blaine Bradford right there.
I mean, I think the best number 23 ever at Ohio State is Tyves Powell, bro.
Yeah, but I went off by like stats and stuff. But
Well, what stats? What was this guy's stat? Is he a national champion?
I think so. He's from like the 40s, I think.
Okay, fair enough. I feel like he'd be like a tie, like fit in like a tie rocket like Tyvis, or didn't Marcus Hooker rock 23?
He was good at drinking beer and sleeping in McDonald's parking lots.
Yeah. He was decent. He wasn't a good safety, but he was serviceable until we
Yeah,
like
he was okay.
yeah, that was when the defense was
He
kind
was he was better than the one dude that ended up going to USC, the
of
white kid, no, or
oh
number
Sean
17. Number
Bryce.
17. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Dan's wearing our sponsor, Forever Game Day. Go check out their merch. Code nuts, 15% off your first order. They have some great gear. I love the Ohio versus the world shirt. So check that out.
Absolutely. Um, Cass, now the fun part of the show. Got the little chit chat agenda out of the way. The purpose of this show, someone on Twitter brought this up. Um, they asked like who was the Mount Rushmore of Ohio State players, and then I like misinterpreted the tweet and I thought he was talking about only receivers. So it got me thinking like we got to do the Mount Rushmore of Ohio State wide receivers, not Ohio State players, like Ohio State wide receivers, best receivers of all time. Since we're kind of waiting on spring game and like there's not a ton to talk about. So Cass, you want to go? Do you want to go with your first pick?
I got honorable mentions real quick, and this will kind of give you an idea of where I'm going at with mine. Paul Warfield, 1942 national championship. He's a NFL Hall of Famer. Really got it started for the wide receivers. Obviously, doesn't have the numbers, but he's kind of like the oh my gosh, Broke the dude that broke the color rate for baseball. My goodness. Jackie Robinson. He's the Jackie Robinson of Ohio State football when it comes to wide receivers. Paul Warfield. I like Joey Galloway. He really kind of exploded off the scenes in the early '90s. Chris Olave, a stat machine, probably one of the greatest route runners in Ohio State history. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. And people were like, "What, Marvin? Your honorable mention number one." That's because my number four, where if you look at the Mount Rushmore, the guy on the on the end, Abraham Lincoln. My number four is Jeremiah Smith.
I love it. Um, my list here, pulling it back up. No, that makes sense. I got honorable mention. I got Santonio Holmes, Super Bowl MVP, obviously. Insane career for the Steelers, national champion. Um, I have Devin Smith, national champion, second round pick. I had Chris Olave as, with Chris, I feel like if he had a title, I don't think
Stat machine, man.
if Chris Olave had like a natty, he would be on my list. I also had Jackson Smith and Jigba just because the single game thing is just insane. And the single season. The single game put him over everything for the single season, I want to point out. It's really that game was just the most insane thing. He's honorable mention. Marv, Marv just didn't have a moment, I feel like, and that's why he did not make my list. Marv did everything right. He had the Bolitnikoff 1,000-yard seasons, just never beat Michigan, never had a moment. I feel so that's why I couldn't put him on my list. Um, Cass, my list is very similar to yours. Um, who's your first pick? You said Ted Ginn.
So at my Abraham Lincoln, if you're looking at the Mount Rushmore, and the one on the end is Abraham Lincoln, I have Jeremiah Smith.
Okay, yeah. I have him on my yeah, okay, perfect. Yep, same. I have Jeremiah there too. Um, now obviously, if Jeremiah the next two seasons doesn't play a snap and
He's George Washington.
just becomes a bum and like gets in trouble, goes to jail, I'll have to consider removing him. But like
Yeah, same.
at this point, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but like that's what would need to happen for him not to stay on this Mount Rushmore. He's already has an he had his moment. He had the moment, the 3rd and 11. He has a national championship. He has over 1,000-yard receiving, uh,
Multiple one-handed catches.
multiple sick catches. Number one receiver on his team.
Burnt a whole defense 3 times.
Beat like dismantled Oregon. And then All American. Just he has everything already, and he's not just getting started.
Yeah,
So
that's why he's the Abe Lincoln right now, because by the end of his career, he's the George Washington.
yeah, there's no like there's no rational way you can't tell me compared to all the other like what he did this year. Like it's like what Marv did last year. It's like what JSN did his one. Like it's what Olave did his best year. He did it his freshman year and won a natty. There's no debate. Like you're just a hater if you don't think he's on the Mount Rushmore already. Cast number two pick. So I'm passionate about this.
No, you're fine. I have Ted Ginn Jr. just because is he the best receiver? No, but what he did as a receiver, Heisman finalist. Um, if it was that national championship, had his moments, went 4-0 against Michigan. But was he the best route runner on his team? No, it was Hartline and Anthony Gonzalez. But his speed, what he could do in special teams, what he can do with the ball in his hands, makes him number 3.
And like if we're talking about why Ted Ginn's on this list for me is because he's not just a receiver. He was in the early 2000s.
He's the Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, he does everything. Like he goes in there, he returns kicks. He's a renaissance man, like Teddy Roosevelt. He does a little bit of everything. Big plays, receiving, kickoff return touchdowns, punt return touchdowns, rushing touchdowns. He does everything. If you need him to go fight the Spanish in the Spanish American War, he'll do that. If you need him to bare knuckles box a dude, he'll do that. That's why he's on there for me, dude. I agree. And like when I think of Ohio State wide receivers too, I always think of Ted Ginn, and maybe it was just the age. I'll always remember him returning that kickoff and obviously hurting his ankle, but he returned it in a national championship, and I was like, wow, that guy did his job. And like, yeah, the Ohio State lost the game. And Gibb didn't lose him the game. He got him the touchdown, set him up perfectly.
Yeah.
So that was his moment.
My Thomas Jefferson, first Blintkoff Award winner, the dude that set the standard. Did not set the standard, but the dude that wrote the Declaration of Independence for wide receivers, won the first Blintkoff Award. Terry Glenn, same thing, speed with the ball in his hands. He played a whole game with a separated shoulder. Destroyed Notre Dame, beat Michigan one time, played 93, 94, 95 with, Michigan, played with our good buddy James Sumner. Terry Glenn, Blintkoff Award winner, 95. He was just a stud. The ball in his hands, got a little overshadowed in 93 with, Joey Galloway. But when him and Galloway lined up in 94 together, they were great. Terry Glenn, Blintkoff Award winner, played with a separated shoulder, was just a menace. Ask Penn State fans and Notre Dame fans what Terry Glenn did to them.
So on my list, dude, I got as my Thomas Jefferson, because I feel like Thomas Jefferson, his accomplishments, a little forgotten. It doesn't maybe get the most respect. Doesn't get the same respect as Abe, as George Washington. Definitely not as much as Teddy Roosevelt. The reason I got this guy there, I got Michael Jenkins as my Thomas
Holy
Jefferson.
Buckeye.
Got the moment, Holy Buckeyes, got the natty. He's had 1,000-yard seasons. I believe what was he?
Held a record for a while too.
He did, dude. He was a phenomenal second team All Big Ten in 2022. I don't know how that happened. And then even the more impressive, really good NFL career with Michael Vick and the Falcons. Over
So,
350
played for Seattle too.
Yeah, Minnesota. 354
Minnesota.
4,800 receiving yards, 25 touchdowns. He was really good in Madden if you used him, but physically too, very underrated, slept on. He ran a 4.38 back in the day in 2003, which is like a 4.2 now. 6'4". Just an absolute beautiful specimen of a wide receiver, and highly underappreciated. So that's why I got Michael Jenkins as on the Mount Rushmore, and I think he deserves to be on there for sure.
Um, my George Washington goes to Chris Carter. He really set the mold of what a wide receiver, Ohio State wide receiver meant. Unfortunately, he had his issues off the field, with the played under Earl Bruce, but had his issues. But the dude was a menace. He's a Hall of Famer, and I think that's why I have him as the George Washington, because outside of Paul Warfield, we talked a little bit about it, but Chris Carter is an Ohio State wide receiver, one of the probably the greatest hands in the NFL in NFL history, is a Hall of Famer. Played for the Buckeyes, loves the Buckeyes. That's why he's my George Washington.
So I got for me my George Washington. You already picked him. I have Terry Glenn because I feel like what it means to be an Ohio State wide receiver. Terry Glenn, he's the model guy. One born in Columbus, so he was born a Buckeye. Um, goes on to be a Super Bowl champion, makes a Pro Bowl, wins the Fred Biletnikoff, first team All Big Ten, consensus All American, every accolade. Yeah, he's I guess missing a natty from Ohio State, but just everywhere you look, he was consistent in his career. People say nothing but good things about Terry Glenn.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. But that like George Washington, the model president, Terry Glenn's my model Ohio State wide receiver. Just everywhere, like accolades upon accolades. left no stone unturned when it came to football, man. Such a great player.
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. I like doing the Mount Rushmores.
This was good. I like this one. This was
Yeah,
content.
it, it's it's hard to do. I mean, so many great players and stuff in Ohio State football history, and that's the glory. That's been the glory thing about
Okay,
Ohio State football. Like
I got a question for you because we got some time left. Who would be the Donald Trump of this Mount Rushmore? Because Trump just might go and like build himself on the mountain. What player could you see doing that?
the fifth spot.
Is there someone you want to project so that like in the future just might put if they create a fifth spot in Mount Rushmore, who would it be? Who would you argue
Well,
for?
you got one. You got to have a dude with a that had a mouth that has a mouth, because Trump, like to talk
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah, okay.
I'm going David Boston, baby.
Yeah.
David Boston would be the Donald Trump, only because out of the receivers in Ohio State history, who's the only one that's ever scuffled with a Michigan player?
Yeah.
David Boston.
Yeah, well, Dontrell Willis, technically. Well, I think he was a running back at the time. Dontre was. No, you're right though, Cass. That's a.
David Boston would be my Donald Trump.
I could see Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson has a little yap yap to him. If he goes on and has an insane NFL career, wins like a Super Bowl or two, I could see him etching his name up there. JSN potentially if he in the NFL maybe. I
KJ Hill would be my FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Dude was there forever. Like he started all 4 years of his career. Only one of the lone wide receivers that started all 4 years of his career. FDR ran 4 terms. kind
Ben
of makes sense.
Ben Victor would be like my Thomas who who's the dude with the electricity?
Thomas
Benjamin
Edison,
Franklin. He would be my Ben Victor would be my Ben Franklin.
but he's not a president.
Well, no, that's the point. He's not a
All
president.
right, okay, you're
He's not a
talking.
president
You're
because
talking the founding fathers. Who are
he
all the founding
discovered
fathers?
electricity, and then the electricity was just all his crazy catches, like the Penn State catch, the catch touchdown against Indiana, just all his crazy catches. Ben Victor, electricity, Ben Franklin out there with the kite getting
All
zapped.
right. The founding fathers were Alexander Hamilton, Ben Franklin, George Washington, James Madison, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Patrick Henry, Sam Adams, George Mason. All right. Just
Sam
going through.
Adams would just be who's most likely to have a beer named out after them.
Hmm. Who would have a beer named after them? Hmm.
The tough one.
Noah Brown.
The Noah Brown.
The Hug.
The hug.
Um,
I could see like Joey Galloway, like a Joey
the
Galloway
Galloway.
ale.
John Adams, who was the second. Dude, the second the second president of the United States, John Adams, was always the number two. No, Emeka Buka, always the number 2 receiver in his career.
Yeah, I you could also say maybe like Mike Thomas.
Yeah. No, Mike Thomas. Mike Thomas would be the Alexander Hamilton. Honestly, Mike Thomas could have been the Donald Trump.
Paul Revere. Who's gonna scream? The British are coming. The British are coming. Michigan's coming. Michigan's coming.
Dane Sanzenbacher.
Oh,
Brian Hartline. I don't know.
oh, Dontre Wilson when he fought Michigan.
Roy Hall.
Okay, I like this. This is good. My
John
man,
Hancock.
John Hancock. The
No one only people that know him for signing something first.
Jeff Green. I think we gotta end the show now. Gas is dead. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Bunch of Us podcast. We'll be back next week. Go Bucks. Stay dry. Avoid the tornado.